Hi friends, and welcome back to my channel. Today we are finally doing an update on my Pan Those Eyeshadows project. I have not posted an update for a hot minute for this project, but I'm finally doing an update today. So I'm just gonna kind of condense the past couple months that I've missed. I don't even really remember what is the last month that I posted. I think it might have been like February, maybe March, but I'm just gonna go through the palettes, show you where they're at right now, talk about how many times I used them maybe last month and the month before, but then I will put up the total uses that I have so you can kind of see the total uses that I've had since my last update, and hopefully now I'll be able to do more regular updates and we'll just kind of get back into it, get back on track with these palettes. Very similarly to my Project Pan series, just because I am not posting video updates of everything does not mean that I am not continuously tracking my usage. I have tracked every single time I've used the shades in these palettes, and so I have the actual counts and everything. I just have not filmed or posted videos about it. As a reminder, how my Pan Those Eyeshadows project works is I have 3 palettes that I'm working on, and those 3 palettes are the ABH Modern Renaissance, the Pure Beer Selfie, and the Maybelline Lemonade Craze palettes. My goal is to hit pan on all the shades in all of the palettes, and then after that, my secondary goal is to finish up and use up shades in all the palettes. So hopefully by the end of the project or the end of me using the palettes, every single shade will be used up in every single palette, and or I'll use up all the shades that I want to use up and then declutter the palettes once they get to a point where I'm like, it's not worth it anymore. I usually start with my Focus 5 shades, and as an update for you, a very frustrating update for me, but an update for you in general, my Focus 5 shades have not changed for, let me count real quick, for 5 months. They have not changed since February, and I think that's the last time I posted an update. So my Focus 5 shades have not changed. So you haven't missed anything basically from the last time that I posted about these palettes, because my Focus 5 shades are the exact same, but I will go through them anyway because obviously I have had a lot more usage and they look a little different. So my first focus shade is this one. It is Red Ochre. It has a pretty substantial dip. I mean, all of the shades have a pretty substantial dip at this point, but I do think that I could get this hit pan on faster than, Venetian Red or Realgar. So I only have the 3 left in this palette, but I'll get to that in a little bit. I used it one time in May, which is not as much as I would like to have it used, but I think I'll be using it more in the following months, like as it gets warmer, and I just wear a lot more like reds and oranges in the summer. So a lot of warmer tones, obviously, because it is sunny and nice out. And so I think I could probably hit pan on this hopefully soon. Next one is right next to it. It is Venetian Red. I used this 2 times in May. Again, has a pretty substantial dip, not as big as Red Ochre, obviously, but I'm getting good usage on it. Again, not as much, but this one, it is a little more cooler tone. It is a berry shade. I will probably end up using this a lot more in the fall and winter, obviously. So yeah. Okay, so my Pure Beer Selfie, I do have pan in every single shade, and my focus shade is Natural, which is this like mid-tone brown. I used it 7 times in May, 5 times in April, and 11 times in March. So I do get pretty good usage on it every single month. The pan is a lot bigger, at least in my view, than it was before. I'm just gonna keep trucking on it. I do have a lot more product in here than I originally thought, but yeah. And then I have my Maybelline Lemonade Craze palette. So I have 2 focus shades in this palette. It's gonna be really difficult for me to show you because of certain things that have happened to this palette, but it is Sugar Coated, which has an okay dip in it, but not as much as I would like. And then Ice Pop, which is this hot pink, and it does have a pretty good dip, but again, not anywhere near hitting pan. I used Ice Pop 4 times in May, and then 2 times in April, 2 times in March. So I am using it more, and I probably will continue to use it more because again, it is a summery color to me. It's like a hot, vibrant pink, and I really like putting it on the outer corner. Sugar Coated, I used 3 times in May, 3 times in April, and 5 times in March. So I am getting, again, pretty good usage on it. I assume that I'll use it a lot more in June, July, and August, again, because it is like a very orangey copper color. And yeah, I do think that I'll be able to hit pan on Sugar Coated sometime in the summer. Ice Pop, not as much. Ice Pop is just more firmly pressed than all of the other shadows in this palette, so that does make it a little bit more difficult, but sugar coated, I do think that in the summer when I wear a lot more coppers, I'll be able to hit pan on it. So yeah, those are my focus shades. Now to just get into my palettes as a whole, so I'll start with Modern Renaissance. The biggest update that I have for y'all, and the thing that's most exciting to me, is I did completely use up Tempera in May. I used this 4 times in May, 3 times in April, and yeah, I completely finished it up after 60 uses total from this project as a whole, but I already had a pretty substantial pan in it when I started this project, but in general, really happy with that. I now have 2 shades completely used up from this palette, and it means that I will be able to move on to other very similar shades in the other palettes. So yeah, really, really happy with that. I now have Tempera and Golden Ochre used up, and I do think it's just very satisfying to have it kind of like going this way. I don't know, it's very nice to me. Next up is Vermeer, and I used that twice in May and twice in April. I do think that I'm, getting a larger pan. You'll hear a lot in this that the pans just are a little bit bigger. I don't think that I'm using it quite as much now that it is warmer out, but I'm pretty happy with my usage on it. Next up is Bon Fresco, which I used 2 times in May and 2 times in April as well. This, again, I'm probably not going to be using as much in the next coming months because it is more cool toned and I'm just wearing a lot more warmer tones right now. But I do think the pan looks bigger, so yeah. Antique Bronze, I used once in May and twice in April. Again, not a shade that I've been reaching for very regularly, but has a good pan in it. I'm happy with it. Love Letter, I used once in May, once in April. This I basically only try to use 1 time every single month because if I'm reaching for a shade like that, I would much rather be reaching for Venetian Red because they're basically identical and I want to be hitting pan on Venetian Red. Love Letter does have a baby tiny little mini pan and that is why I'm focusing on Venetian Red, but again, they're basically the same shade. Cypress Umber I used twice in May and twice in April. So yeah, getting good kind of use on it. It is a little bit of a darker shade and I feel like in the spring and summer I go for more like lighter looks. Like I have a very yellowy kind of greenish, I don't know, look today. And I feel like that is more what I go for in the spring and summer. And so because it is the darkest shade out of any of the palettes, I'm gonna be using it less right now. Raw Sienna I used 3 times in May and 2 times in April. This is pretty good, but if I'm going to be reaching for a mid-tone brown, typically I'm gonna be reaching for natural because it is in my Focus 5. But yeah, getting good usage on it still, and it has a little bit bigger of a pan. Okay, Burnt Orange is definitely one that it has an update to it. So I used it 8 times in May and once in April. So that's obviously quite a jump from April to May. But the thing is I've started putting it in my eyebrows. I don't know if you remember, but back in the day I used to use warm taupe for my eyebrows and that's when I had like more cooler toned hair. But now that I have warmer toned hair, I've really enjoyed using Burnt Orange in my eyebrows and I kind of always alternate. Like I have phases where I'll use eyeshadow to fill in my eyebrows and then I'll stop and then I'll start again and then I'll stop. But that's how I've been using it and I'm gonna continue using it like that. I really like that. I obviously don't do that every single day, but I do really like it. I like the tone of it. And I have just been wearing more warm toned eyeshadows. So I'm gonna be using it more in the summer anyway, but I've been really enjoying that shade. So yeah. Primavera, I used 5 times in May and once in April. And again, same thing, not the same as in I'm putting it on my eyebrows, but same as in it is warmer toned. And so I am using it a lot more in these warmer months. So I've been really enjoying putting this like below my eye right there. And yeah, really enjoying it. I obviously already went through Red Ochre and Venetian Red, so onto Warm Taupe. Warm Taupe I used 2 times in April and 2 times in May. This I'm always gonna use if I do a cooler toned look, and yeah, it's a really good mid-tone like taupe, warm taupe brown, and I really like it, so just keep getting usage. I am trying to get the bottom completely used up because I already hit the bottom and then kind of just going across, so that is my goal. Realgar I used twice in May and once in April. This is another one that I think I'll probably end up using more in the summer as it gets warmer and I'm wearing a lot more like orangey, warm toned shadow looks, but I also really think that I'll use Realgar a lot more in the fall because it is just that like kind of pumpkin spicy, warm fall kind of tone. I do think of this palette as like a fall palette more so than a spring or summer palette. So it makes sense why I'm gonna be using the lighter half in the spring and summer and not as much the darker, cooler toned half because I think of it as very like fall and wintry. So yeah, that is my Modern Renaissance update. Okay, on to my Pure Beer Selfie. Again, I have pan in every single one of these shades, so it's just about expanding the pans and getting them used up. So we'll start with Pure up here. I use this 3 times in May and 2 times in April. I am trying to hit the wall here, as we can see. I am expanding the pan that way. I do think I'll be able to hit the wall in June, at least, or if not that, July, because I feel like this is so finely pressed, and also how I use it is usually all over the lid or buffing it into the crease. I just end up using a lot of it when I use it. So yeah, I do think that I'll be able to hit the wall pretty soon, and I do like it. I do think it is a little too dark for using it as a blending shade, but it's too light to kind of use as a crease. It's a weird in between, and it is actually very warm toned. It is like almost orange on my skin tone. So I do like using it, but it's just a very specific use case for me. And then I went through natural already, so we'll move on to free. Free, I used 4 times in May and 3 times in April. It is a really good like mid-tone dark brown. I really like using it, just expanding the pan, all good there. Charming, I used 3 times in May and 3 times in April. This is one that I'm surprised I don't have as many uses in because I really like this shade. Like every single time I put it all over my lid, I'm like, wow, I really like my eyeshadow look today. I just really love it, and I should probably use it more because of that. It is a lot flatter than it was before, but I definitely think that I could start expanding the pan like this way if I just used it more, and I do love it every single time I use it. So I don't really know why I don't use it as much, but maybe that will be my goal for this summer, is to use it more. And then Alluring is this kind of like more, it's not as much of an orange tone copper. Like Sugar Coated in my mind is like an orange copper. This is like a true copper, like more of a pinky red copper, if you catch my drift there. I have expanded the pan a lot. I do really like this shade, but because I am trying to focus on Sugar Coated, I use this one less. Sometimes I'll wear them together, but because they just have different tones to them, I don't always love doing that. I use this 2 times in May and 1 time in April. So again, because I'm focusing on Sugar Coated, I'm just gonna be using this one a little bit less. Gorgeous, I used 1 time in May and 1 time in April. This one I'm gonna have less usage on because it is just more of like a darker, cooler toned shimmer, and that is much more like fall, winter to me than anything else. Sometimes I use it as like a shimmery liner if I'm feeling that, or sometimes if I wanna deepen the lower lash line and the outer third, I'll use it. But again, I'm just not gonna be reaching for it as much in the summer because I like bright, colorful, light looks in the spring and summer. Fabulous, I used 1 time in May and 1 time in April. This one, again, I'm just trying to use it once. This is not my favorite shade. I don't love using it. I don't really love the undertone of it. And also I think it is really similar to like Love Letter, Venetian Red, Red Ochre. And so if I'm gonna be using those, I'm gonna be using those over this one. Same thing goes with Strong. I used Strong 2 times in April and 2 times in May. Very similar. A lot of times the easiest way for me to use this one is if I'm using Red Ochre or Venetian Red, and I can kind of use this because it's a little bit lighter than them, so I can like blend out, like a lot of times I'll use Venetian Red and Red Ochre as like liners, and then I will blend out my line to make it a little softer with Strong, and that's kind of the way that I use it the most. I don't really use it on its own. Sometimes I also can use this with Ice Pop, which is really nice. So this is a really good like addition shade to my Focus 5 shades. And then finally we have Confident. I use this 2 times in May and 2 times in April. I basically use this as a liner every single time I do a purple look, unless it's like a pastel purple look, but it is a really good purple liner. I basically am only gonna use it as a liner. I have not ever used it as like a crease shade or anything. It's just too deep, too dark, and too kind of like cool toned for me to use that. It's also a shimmer, so it's hard to kind of like use it in the crease in that, you know, kind of sense, but I do like it as a purple liner, and I'll keep using it like that. All right, finally we have my poor, broken, beat up Maybelline Lemonade Craze palette. So I'll just get out of the way. The biggest thing is that, if you can see, Coral Punch has gotten smashed to bits. My cats or my dog, one of them, knocked it off of my vanity and it shattered. I had a pretty good substantial pan in it before it shattered, and I already stopped traveling with this because the shades are just breaking a lot, and also the packaging is broken. I've also already kind of like destroyed Lemonade Craze, which was the yellow in this palette, which is really upsetting to me because that would be so great for summer and it's a shade I used all the time in summer. And then also, like, I would have used it in my look today, you know, this like more yellowy look. And then Coral Punch is like one of my favorite shades of all time. Like, it is the best peach shade, and yeah, so I'm really upset that it is kind of crushed, but I'm trying my hardest to just keep using it like that. I might try to repress it. I don't know, we shall see. I don't really want it to change the formula. Right now, I'm just kind of keeping it tucked away, flat. I'm not standing it up at all so that I don't lose any more product from it. But we'll just start with the shades in order, obviously. We'll start with Sherbet. Sherbet is basically a Tempera dupe that I had, and I get to use this a lot more now that Tempera is completely used up. I use this 2 times in May and 1 time in April, and you'll probably see a lot more usage on this now that, like I said, Tempera is completely used up, but I do really like it. It's a really good shade, and I have a lot of it to use, so yeah. Next we have Berry Ice, which I used 2 times in May and 3 times in April. So my goal, again, still is to be using this one up. It's just a little bit harder because it is a cooler toned pink, and I'm wearing a lot more like warmer, brighter pinks right now. When I use a pink look, sometimes I still will use it, and it's great for work, for like lighter makeup looks. But yeah, I completely used up the corner here, and now I'm just trying to get the other corners and completely use it up. Next is Sunnies, which I used twice in May and once in April, and you can see I hit pan on it. I technically hit pan on it actually today because I used it on my lid today, but I'll just put it into this update, even though technically that would be in the update for June. It's 1 day into June, so okay. I've only used it 12 times, including today, and I hit pan on it, so obviously I had a pretty good dip in it, and yeah, I really like it. It's a nice, like, bright, yellowy, white kind of tone, and I use it when I wear yellow looks. So yeah, I'm really enjoying that one. Then we have Main Squeeze, which I used 2 times in May and 4 times in April, and yeah, I really like using this on the inner corner or underneath my lower lash line. Even on my brow bone, it's a really good highlight shade, basically the only highlight shade I have in any of the palettes. So yeah, really like that, and we'll probably continue to use it. I did use it today, so yeah. Next up we have Strawberry Lemonade, which I used 3 times in May and 2 times in April. So yeah, really like this, again, for pink looks. It is a lot flatter than it was before, and I want to keep it that way so that it doesn't crumble all over the place like the rest of the shades in this palette. But yeah, I really enjoy that shade of pink, and I think it looks really much more metallic and much prettier on the lids than you would expect. So yeah. And then obviously Lemonade Craze, I used twice in April, and then it basically just got destroyed. It completely broke and then went everywhere, and there was no salvaging it. So it is completely used up. Did I use up all the product? No, but it is a shade that is completely used up. So unfortunately, I do have a complete full pan in this palette. I'm trying not to have a second one until I actually use up all of the product. This is Citrus. I used it 3 times in May and 2 times in April. It is a little bit flatter. I'm gonna be using this a lot more in the summer, I'm pretty sure, because it is like a warmer toned shade. Really enjoy it, yeah. I already talked about Ice Pop, and I already talked about Coral Punch, but I will say I used Coral Punch 3 times in May, 3 times in April. I do wear this shade a lot in the summer, and so my goal is to just use it a lot to use up the product that I have so that I can not have to precariously use this palette. So I do want to use it a lot more. I really enjoy using it in the summer. I think it is like the perfect summery shade for me. It is like the perfect peach. It is orangey and pink and just warm, and it makes my eyes pop, and it looks really good against my skin. So yeah, really love Coral Punch. Upset that it broke, but I'm just gonna keep using it and hopefully use it up by the end of the summer. Sweet Tea, I used twice in May and twice in April. This is another one that I just kind of try to use once or twice every single month because I have natural and I'm trying to use up natural, obviously. And then I also have Raw Sienna from the Modern Renaissance, so I have that one as well. I have a lot of mid-tone browns, so I'm, constantly just trying to use them once or twice, but I do really like this one, and it blends really nicely, so I'm just gonna keep using it. Old Fashioned, I used once in May and 3 times in April. Again, this one is kind of nice for the summer because it is a dark brown, but it is not the darkest shade. Like, it's not like Cypress Umber where it's super, super dark, and I feel like it is really comparable to Free, so it's kind of just dependent on the day whether I use Old Fashioned or Free, but yeah, I'm just trying to use more of it. And then I obviously already talked about Sugar Coated. All right, so that is my update on the palettes for my Pan Those Eyeshadow series. I really hope you guys enjoyed this. I'm really glad I got back into filming it. Hopefully I will be posting more regularly now that it is summer, obviously, and I won't miss a couple months in a row again. But I do think that my only goal is to just get another shade in my Focus 5. Having 5 months of the same Focus 5, it is so aggravating. I will say the difficult thing is that because I've kind of hit pan and used up a lot of other shades, I really don't have that many shades to hit pan on anymore. I basically have my 2 focus shades from the Maybelline Lemonade Craze, so Ice Pop and Sugar Coated, and then I have, especially now that I hit Sunnies, so I literally have those 2, so those kind of have to stay in. And then the only other one that I have in the Modern Renaissance besides Red Ochre and Venetian Red is Realgar. And other than that, I have no other shades to hit pan on. I've hit pan on every single other shade, which is really awesome, and I'm really glad, but it is just something where, okay, that means that total, I have 5 shades to hit pan on, and then in my Pure Beer Selfie, I have to use up shades, you know what I mean? So I feel like there's not really many other places I can go with my Focus 5 shades. The cool thing will be, once I hit pan on one of the shades in the Maybelline Lemonade Craze, I will be able to start focusing on using up other shades in the Maybelline Lemonade Craze. So that is something I'm looking forward to. Same thing with Modern Renaissance. Once I hit pan on those shades and, you know, can roll Realgar in, I can start focusing on using up other shades. So eventually that will be the project. It will be me trying to use up the shades in the palettes completely, and that will be my Focus 5 shades. But for right now, just trying to hit pan on the ones that I have. Obviously, because I haven't hit pan on them, it shows either how little I use them or how much product I actually have. I will not be swatching them only because it is the same and it has been the same. So maybe I'll put up a picture of the swatch that I took back in like March or whenever the last update was. That being said, I am really happy with a lot of the progress that I have made, a lot of the things that have happened besides Squirrel Punch RIP, but I do think that I'm gonna get good usage and have been enjoying still using these palettes, and I don't really feel tired of using them, so that's really nice. And yeah, with that, if you like this update, please like the video, and if you like me, please subscribe, join me on my little journey. And yeah, I hope you're having a great day, week, month, year, wherever you are, and I will see you in my next video. Bye guys.